The Xbox full screen experience is here, so let's talk about how it compares to SteamOS. How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is Deck Ready, my channel all about the Steam Deck, and in today's video, it's a single topic, of course, because I've had around a week to test out the Xbox full screen experience, and I wanted to talk about it from a Steam Deck power user perspective. Before I jump into the video, I have two massive requests from you guys. First of all, it would really help me out if you subscribe to the channel and set your notifications to all. I work really hard to not waste your time and make sure you're getting all the latest Steam Deck news that's interesting, because I use my Steam Deck so much that I can kind of filter it down like that. And then my second huge request is hype the video. If you're on your phone, there should be a hype button below it. I want to collect data and see how much it actually helps to get on the hype leaderboard. So that's where I need your help. I really appreciate it. But with the intro out of the way, let's get into the video because I have a lot to cover here. I've been very interested in the idea of the Xbox full screen experience for a long time now, basically ever since it was announced, because I've been a PC gamer for a very long time. Like going back to high school, my friends and I mostly played on the 360 and PS3. And then around the same time, just by total chance, we all built gaming PCs and started playing stuff like Fallout 3, New Vegas, Call of Duty, Battlefield 3, like all of the heavy hitting PC games. And ever since then, console exclusive stuff that I want to play on my TV, I buy on my PlayStation device. Other stuff like first person shooters, online games, stuff I want to be on Discord for, I buy on PC, and I basically split my time between the two. But that was until SteamOS became a thing, because it really just gave you a great console interface for PC, and that led up to me building a PC with a 9800 X3D CPU. I had to upgrade it to not bottleneck my GPU, which is a 9070 XT, and now I love using SteamOS on the TV. I pair it with an 8-bit Do Ultimate 2 controller or my DualSense Edge. I love playing games with the frame rate limiter, having the TDP controls, being able to listen to music in the background, pull up a web browser, pull up Discord, do everything I want to do on a PC, but with a controller, and have everything work incredibly well. And if you don't know, the difference between Bazzite and SteamOS is that Bazzite gets more features, but they're essentially the same thing. So I kind of split my time now, 33% each, between PS5, of course, for my Sony exclusives. Then I've got Windows for games like Battlefield 6 that have anti-cheat, so I can use my keyboard and mouse at my desk. And then the other 33% is games that I play between my Steam Deck and my Bazzite PC. And everything's been working out great because SteamOS has come a long way in 3 years of being on the market. So the possibility of Xbox finally merging Windows and Xbox together to make a console style interface for Windows 11 was obviously very exciting to me, because I do use a Windows PC for around a third of the time that I'm playing games. So after using it for a week, it's very interesting. So on the surface, it works really well. I don't know what the process is going to be for someone who gets an Xbox ROG Ally day one, but for me, I had to install so many updates. I had to update everything within the Armory crate first, then I had to go into Windows updates and run like 15 or 16 different updates for Windows itself. Then I had to update the Xbox app. Then I had to download the Xbox Insider app to get early access to the Xbox full screen experience. And then the last step that a lot of reviewers I know did not really have an easy time finding was getting a preview update for Windows, because the text you have to click on is extremely tiny and honestly doesn't look clickable. But once I did that, which took like 4 or 5 hours, the thing launches right into the Xbox full screen experience. And the big difference is it kills a lot of processes, right? Like it kills the taskbar, it kills some stuff in the background like Office 365, it kills OneDrive, and that gives you around 2 gigabytes of RAM back, which will result in like 5 to 6 FPS difference in some games, but most games 1 to 2 FPS difference. But what I will say is the interface works great. It's a redesigned Xbox app that's very similar to how an Xbox Series X works. You can access any app you have running by holding the Xbox button, which pulls up a switcher, which is extremely fast and fluid, which shocks me, because if you've ever had like Discord and a game running at the same time on your Windows PC and you need to switch between them, the process is a little weird. Like sometimes the screen flashes, it takes a little bit longer than it should. It seems like the game might freeze for a second and then have you force restart it. It just never feels really quite optimized as it should be. But when you do it in this Xbox app in full screen mode, it works perfectly, almost exactly like the Steam Deck. Like you hold the Xbox button, it zooms your apps out, and then you can see everything that's running and rapidly switch between them, even when you're running a game. Like I booted up the Crew Motorfest, I switched back to the Xbox app, I switched back to the game. It's instant how fast you're back into the game. And I think that is a huge step forward for Windows gaming as a whole. And that's honestly the most exciting experience I had so far, was switching between all the different apps and seeing how well it worked. So we were off to a great start. So the switching is done by holding the Xbox button, and to bring up the game bar, you tap the Xbox button and it launches automatically into compact mode. I tried switching it out of compact mode to get it to be more like the game bar on my PC. I would not recommend doing that because it'll open up a billion different things and then like things aren't centered at the top of the screen. It just doesn't work very well and you don't gain much functionality through doing that, so it's not really worth it. The widgets you get are exactly what you'd want. You have the first one, which is the launcher. It lets you pick between different apps you've opened up recently. You have the Armory Crate one, which lets you control performance, but I'll talk about that in a second. Then you've got like Edge, a little mini browser you can interact with. You've got screen recording. You've got settings, which are all just basically quick little settings for the game bar, mostly nothing crazy. You can open up the settings app though if you want Windows settings to get fine tuning with it. And that's about when I ran into my first bummer, which kind of blows my mind that it's set up this way. So I figured this Xbox app would be very SteamOS-like in the sense that once it's installed, you'll be able to fine tune the performance profile of whatever PC or handheld you're using it on. That is not the case. They basically give you the basics with the Xbox app, but anything you want to do performance-wise is left up to the manufacturer. So if you're on the Legion Go, you'd use the Legion app, which allows you to change the performance profiles of the Legion Go. And if you're on the ROG Ally, you're using Armory Crate. They did do a massive update that basically changed the way it works, and it does feel a lot less, I don't want to say budget, but janky or thrown together as it did on the last ROG Ally and ROG Ally X. I think it's a big, good visual overhaul for the entire thing. And the way it works in the game bar just basically is the same way it worked before, where when you'd hit the Armory Crate button, it would pull up that side menu. Now it's like a nice little drop-down window that's fast and fluid and gives you access to things by default, like changing your screen resolution, the frame rate limiter, the performance overlay. I just am not really a fan of the way it looks. It looks visually much different than the Xbox app, so it's like two conflicting art styles going back and forth with each other, and it just makes it not really feel like a premium experience. And also, their frame limiter is still terrible. Like if you set it to 30, it's a window of 27 to 32 FPS. I don't understand that. Their performance monitor is nowhere as good as the one on SteamOS, and you know, switching between resolutions works in game, but if you do it in full screen mode, it breaks full screen mode. So like they don't really talk to each other all that well. I wish Xbox would figure out a way to make its app take over if you want for the Armory Crate or the Legion Go app or whatever other performance app comes along from your manufacturer. And then the other big bummer is there is a performance monitor in the game bar. You can access it while you're running a game, but there's no way to pin it to the screen. And I wish I could, because it looks and works a lot better than the one that comes along from Asus. And there's so many little problems that crop up by splitting things off that dramatically that I wish you could just pick which one you wanted to run the performance monitoring and operating system rather than forcing you to use the manufacturer one. I don't know if that's nitpicky. I was talking to some friends behind the scenes who got these things early. One of them said they didn't even think about it. The other was like, oh yeah, I definitely noticed that. So like, I guess it just depends what kind of person you are. But yeah, visually speaking, the Xbox side of things is unified with Windows now. So like the keyboard looks like an Xbox keyboard. The little widgets and game bar itself look like they fit in with both the Series X and Windows. I think they did a really good job there considering how fast they made this stuff. That's where I ran into my second problem. I was trying to record this to show it off in the video. So I was like, oh, the game bar has built-in recording. It does not allow you to record the desktop. I Googled, there's no way to do it. So I switched to desktop control mode. I open up the internet, I download OBS, I install it, and then I go back to the Xbox app to add that app to the app library. Because when you boot it up, they've got Steam, they've got Epic Game Store, they've got the Ubisoft launcher, they've got Armory Crate all right there ready to be launched. And that's when I realized, while it will scrape your SSD for any game that's installed, if you install apps from outside the Xbox app, there's no way to add them. So what I had to do was cross my fingers, run OBS in desktop mode, and then switch back to full screen mode while it was already recording, and it worked. I was able to record the screen, but why can I not just add any app I want to the Xbox app to launch with the controller mode in full screen mode like I can in SteamOS? Like in SteamOS, I added Discord, I added Cider for Apple Music, I added the Firefox browser. I can add those and launch them from SteamOS with a controller, and then use the built-in Steam input to be able to use my controller to navigate through all of them with ease. I should be able to do that on the Xbox app, because once you have OBS in the background, if you're in full screen screen mode and switch to it, you have to use the touchscreen. But overall, while it is limited, what it set out to do, it does extremely well. So I want to commend them for that. They really did a good job making this thing look and perform well on this new hardware. So that's cool. And even little things like if I logged into the Xbox app with my account, my Microsoft account, if I launch Forza Horizon 4 through the Xbox app, it remembers that I'm logged in with that account. So I don't got to type in my email password, get my two-factor authentication key. I just hit continue. We're good to go. It has save syncing between Xbox and PC. Opening and quitting apps is basically instant. And one issue I ran into that I was glad doesn't affect it in full screen mode is that when you launch Steam in desktop mode, it goes, oh, you're on the ROG Ally. I'm going to launch into big picture mode. And then the Xbox button is overridden by Steam. So when you hit the Xbox button, it opens up the Steam menu and the game bar at the same time. And then once you close the Steam one, it'll go back to using the Xbox one. I was like, this is weird. But then when you get into the full screen mode, Xbox overrides Steam and Steam just works in the background. So it works completely fine. So if you want to use this thing as a desktop, the Xbox button will probably have to be remapped in Steam, but I don't think it's that big of a deal if you're in full screen mode and it doesn't do that, because that's ideally where you're going to be the entire time. So knowing how well this works after using it for hours over the past week, I don't get why it's exclusive to this specific Ally and Ally X. At the very least, if they wanted to do some licensing deal to subsidize the cost of the handheld with Asus, it should have been available on the original ROG Ally and Ally X day one. Those were marketed as Xbox adjacent devices. So like, I don't get why it's exclusive to this handheld outside of stupid marketing reasons to sell the newest hardware. And also, I think it should be available on the Legion Go, Legion Go 2, and Legion Go S because it works really well. And if Xbox is going towards merging their console and PC ecosystems, you want to get people on that as fast as possible, because there's a huge band-aid you have to rip off, which is this thing does not play Xbox games. Like, we know that. We're PC gamers. We are very aware of the fact that these are different games to what you can play on an Xbox, but someone coming over from console, that's going to be a tough lesson to learn, especially when the better version of this handheld, which is honestly the only one you should buy, costs $1,000. And just to round out the video with my thoughts on the hardware real quick, I think this is a good piece of hardware. I really like the new controller grips. Like, yes, they do look ugly when you look at it from top down, but once you get your hands around it, it's just the most natural feeling handheld other than the Steam Deck. I still prefer the Steam Deck's ergonomics because for some reason I just hit the lottery where that thing feels like it was made for my hand shape. It's better though with the ROG Ally. They have these cool new vibration motors in the actual triggers, so when you're playing like Forza Horizon 5 and you slam on the brakes or hit a wall, you'll feel the vibration in the triggers, and I think that's pretty cool. The screen is exactly the same. It's still a 1080p 16:9 LCD screen. It was always decent. It's still decent. The speakers got a major upgrade. There's a huge grill right on the front of the screen, and I think that's because, you know, they made this thing a lot thicker than the last generation, so they had a lot more space to give the speaker more room to breathe outwards towards you, and the sound is incredible from this thing. Still not on par with the Steam Deck, but a big step in the right direction. The face buttons are a little less mushy. The Xbox button is about on par with the Steam and 3 dots button in the sense that it feels very slapped on there, so I'm not going to take away points for that. But that new chip is the sticking point at the end of the day, because it should theoretically be a generational leap. They put a 2 on it instead of a 1. It's the Z2 Extreme. It is not that big of an upgrade. Like, you'll get maybe 5 to 6 FPS in most games different between the Z1 Extreme and the Z2 Extreme. There are a couple games where you'll get 10 to 15 FPS difference, but for the vast majority of games you're playing, you're going to be going from like 35 FPS to 40 FPS or 30 FPS to 35. And as someone who limits my games anyway, that effectively shakes out to virtually no change for more money. And that kind of brings me to my conspiracy theory as to why the Xbox full screen experience is exclusive to this handheld. It's really because you're not getting that much more performance for how much more you're paying. So the real win between the two devices, the last ROG Ally X and this Ally X, is the controller grips. And that's a small upgrade for a lot of money. So I'd say if you're in the market for a Windows handheld, instead of just jumping on this thing because it has the Xbox full screen experience out of the box and better ergonomics, go to Best Buy, go to the ROG Ally display counter, and hold the original one in your hands. If it feels comfortable, look for a used Ally X or an open box Ally X or even a full priced Ally X, because you're going to pay a lot less money for basically at the end of the day, very similar performance if you do enjoy using a frame limiter like I do. I think the last Ally X is one of the best handhelds ever. It's the only one that I use in conjunction with the Steam Deck. So, I just don't see any reason to upgrade outside of the Xbox full screen experience, of course, but you can install that on the other handhelds if you put in a little bit of effort. So if you want to save some money and get essentially the same performance with the same screen, very similar speakers, pretty much the same controls, X, Y, and Z down the board, I would put in the effort to just install full screen experience on one of those and pay a lot less money for the privilege. So yeah, I'm really curious to see how the reviews shake out for this thing. Like, let's be real, I'm a little biased here. This channel's called Deck Ready. I really love the Steam Deck. I love SteamOS, but I think they did a decent job kind of getting this closer to what the experience is on SteamOS, and I'm sure it'll get better as time goes on, but it really depends how well this thing sells. Do I think we're going to see a true competitor to the Steam Deck? Not at that price, and not for how limited the functionality is with full screen experience. Do I think Xbox fans are going to enjoy this? Yes. This is a much better experience on Windows gaming. So if you're in the Game Pass ecosystem, you're either going to get a great day one upgrade if you buy this thing, or if you put in a little bit of work, you can get the same upgrade right now on the handheld you might already have. It's just a weird time to release something like this. Like 3 different devices technically in the span of 2 years. It's just way too quick, and it just makes me more and more understanding of why we're waiting so long for a Steam Deck 2. But yeah, Xbox's version of SteamOS is pretty decent. I think they did a decent job. If I had to number it on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give it like a solid 7.5 with room to grow to an 8 or even a 9. I like where handheld gaming is going. I just wish the pricing model could be closer to Valve's with everyone else, because they're just pricing people out of the ecosystem before they even get into it. I feel like that's the biggest hurdle to get over. Anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you in today's video. I basically covered everything I wanted to. If you've got any questions about the ROG Ally X, leave them down below and I'll address them in a future video. So yeah, anyway, guys, as always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and shape on.